Okay, so at this point, we know that they're motivated. We know they have the ability. We're still on the phone with them, so they've got what's important. So now we just need to figure out what that price is and overcome any objections they may have to working with us. So that we know that we're in the right price range and we know we can move forward, and that we understand what their fears and their concerns are, so we can address them. That's the last piece of the little puzzle before we actually just stick a time on there. So when it comes to the price, you always just want to be direct. If you're new, it's uncomfortable. If you're old, I shouldn't say if you're old. If you've been doing this for a while, it's uncomfortable. It will always be uncomfortable. But what you need to do is just ask them. Say, hey, if I came out there and wrote you a check, if I just made an all-cash offer, what's the lowest that you'd be able to accept? Now, I'll tell you that I think it's important, the tone, the pitch, all that kind of stuff that you ask, because you don't want to seem threatening, because you're not going to get a good answer. You could just throw it out there and, be the boss, but if you do that, you're just going to put people on guard, and they're not going to be open with you. They're not going to give you the relationship. So I'm always a little bit subtle, but I just say it. I say, hey, if I came out there today and I was just to make you a cash offer, like an investment offer, what's the lowest that you guys would be able to accept on it? And just wait. I'll tell you, 90% of the time they're going to go, oh, I don't know. I hadn't thought about that. We hadn't really talked about it. I haven't really done a lot of homework. I find that very hard to believe. It's actually a good response. Especially if you say it just jokingly. Say, really, I find that hard to believe. You guys have to throw something out there. Help me out. A lot of times they'll still say, no, I haven't. Blah blah blah, and we don't know. We're just trying to figure out what our options are. Blah blah. They'll start backpedaling, and they always do when it comes to price. So, the best thing to do, like we talked about before, is just hit them below the belt, really really low, because when they're saying that, emotionally we're in a place, anytime that somebody's trying to negotiate with us or ask for a price or anything, we're in a place where we're on guard. And you have to find a way to get through that guard to figure out what they really want. And the best way that I've found, and feel free to comment, send me information. If you guys have a better technique, I would love to hear it. What I do is that I just hit them super low. Like I said, if the house is worth 100, I'll say, the place down the street sold for about 25. Now you're not saying I would pay $25,000 for your house. What you're doing is saying someplace down the street sold for 25. And that will throw them emotionally so far off balance, because they do have a price in their head. They do have a number that they're thinking of. It will throw them so far emotionally off balance that they'll probably say, oh, it's worth way more than that. It's worth at least 100. It's worth 110. Or they'll say, yeah, that's really low. That's lower than what I was thinking. I mean, we were thinking, like, we talked to one investor and he'd pay us 50. But what it does is it's a distractor. It distracts them from the fact that they're guarding the price, because they get upset. So it's a very good way. And then after that, you can just say, oh yeah, no, that's what that place sold for. I understand. No, that's just that place. I'm sure your place is much nicer. It's a little bit different too. It's a little bit, your grass is extra green, and you have these really pretty white shutters. You throw it out there, whatever, and then you just back into the comfort zone. But now you have good information. If for whatever reason you don't get an emotional reaction, which almost always you will, I'll just say, hey, do you know what the tax value is? And maybe they do. Maybe they say, well, the tax value is 180. And depending where you are, sometimes the tax value is really high, sometimes it's really low. But what it does is get you on a number topic so that you can work and say, oh yeah, well, I noticed that things in that area are selling for about 50 to 60% of tax value, and those places are fixed up, so minus repair. So I guess from your standpoint, it's probably worth about 180 times 0.5 minus repair. And all of a sudden, you haven't given them a number, but what you've done is made them do math in their head. And it's math that they gave you. They gave you those numbers. You're just a person working off what they gave you. So, that's what I really call summarizing all the work. I just say, you told me 180, and then things are selling for like 0.5. So what are we at, like 70, 50, something like that? And then again, you're going to get some kind of response. And using that to narrow in on price is going to let you know whether you should actually pack up your things and get in your car and go get a contract, or whether they're just not there yet. Maybe they need to marinate a little bit. Maybe you need to, throw some plastic wrap over the top and toss it in the fridge for later, because maybe they need to soak a little bit. Or maybe they're just never going to be motivated enough. But one way or another, you're going to uncover that price and uncover those objections. If you're going to actually plan on going out, a lot of times I'll say, if I were able to get around, 50 or whatever, is that something that you could move forward with on Tuesday? And then you're going to get more objections. Before it's like, oh yeah, maybe they say, oh yeah, I'm the seller. I'm the only one making the decision. And they say, oh, well, I actually need to talk to my attorney, lawyer, cousin, uncle, brother, husband, son. Now you're getting more information. Who's really in charge? Who is it that you need to get a real answer from? And you need to uncover those things before you spend your time, because for a lot of folks, for everyone, time is all you've got. So don't spend your time on people that aren't, going to tell you what you need to know, which is price and whether or not, they have uncovered objections, something that you need to address before you actually go out there. Because you could be getting your no's in. You could get 12 or 13 no's out of the way on the time that you went on that appointment and get to your next yes. And that's what it really comes down to. So, if there's something that's getting sticky in there, a lot of times I'll just say, what's the real issue, Joan? Is it the money? Because I'll tell you what, it's almost always the money. It's almost always the money. But by spending time to understand these kind of basics on the first call is going to rocket you towards success, because getting the first call right, getting the first call in your first appointment that's actually qualified, gets you to a contract quicker than spending your time and spinning your wheels and feeling busy and working lots and getting nothing accomplished by, chasing after all kinds of unmotivated people that aren't qualified, aren't motivated, and haven't given you their price. And that's what it comes down to.